When I started off in Silicon Valley, I didn't have any friends with billion-dollar companies. I didn't even have any friends with $100 million companies.
Do you have any friends?
What's up guys, it's Justin Khan, and today I'm gonna do a fan Q&A video with Jen, who's the producer of my YouTube channel. So if you like what you see on this channel, then it's all due to Jen. If you don't like it,
don't tell me.
It's her fault too. We're gonna start off this video with a surprise. Actually, it's probably not surprising before because I've given away a lot of money, but I'm gonna give one subscriber $1,000 if you comment below on why you need it. You know, it could be for an elective nose surgery to fix your deviated septum, which is actually something I need to get. It could be to pay your mom's rent. It could be to buy a new Bored Ape Yacht Club NFT. I don't care. Well, I do care a little bit. I'm gonna pick the best, funniest, most compelling answer, whatever that is. Comment below why you need the cash. Follow me here on YouTube and on Instagram, and I'm gonna drop that bill on somebody. All right, now let's get to the video. So I've got some questions that we've aggregated from YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn. Did we look at LinkedIn?
No.
No, we didn't look at LinkedIn. We aggregated these questions and we're going to do our best to answer them.
How do you get out of the trap of perfectionism when we're working on an MVP? What is your favorite TV show? What was your lowest low and your highest high, and do they have anything in common?
So,
yeah, this is all from you fans. So thank you all for all the comments.
If you're watching this video, thank you. We appreciate it. Make sure to like and subscribe to this channel so that Jen can keep her job.
All right, so we got a lot of questions to go through, but first ones first are all about like entrepreneurship. So everyone kind of wants to get your advice on how to make the best startup. So number one, what is the worst advice that you've ever gotten as a founder?
What's the worst advice I've ever gotten as a founder?
Terrible advice. Do not listen to this piece of advice.
I mean, I think one bad piece of advice I normally get or I see in the world is that people should just take advantage of this bull market and raise as much money as possible, right? Mm-hmm. Like it's always, why not? Rake hay while the sun shines, raise money. I've probably given that advice to people, but I think in general, getting too much money for your startup is actually bad because constraints breed creativity. If you have constraints, then you're gonna be forced to think of creative solutions to get around those constraints, which actually becomes an asset in the long run. One example of this with Twitch, when we were in the early days, we could raise like very little money, so we had to do things on the cheap. And we figured out how to build our own networking stack to stream this massive to build this massive live video infrastructure with a very small budget. And eventually, when we sold the company, we were the 4th biggest bandwidth user in North America at peak, and we did it all with very slim budget and a network team of 5 engineers.
So necessity is the mother of invention, you know?
Yes, necessity is the mother of invention. That's what I said.
Yes. So do not get that bag. Get a smaller bag.
Get a smallish bag.
A little purse.
Yes, like a little purse. Okay.
How do you get out of the trap of perfectionism when we're working on an MVP?
Well, when it comes to startups, look, you just got to get out there. One of my friends always said, if you're not embarrassed about your first product, you launch too late. I think the key is to get out there and get real user feedback as quickly as possible. Ask yourself the question, why am I not launching right now? And then for every excuse that you come up with, delete that excuse and launch a product right now. The sooner you start getting real world feedback, the better. My friends at Airbnb like to tell this story where they launched 3 times. You can always launch again if no one pays attention. The default is no one's gonna pay attention. They launched their thing multiple times, got a little bit of usage, learned something, then traffic fell off to nothing. And then they went back and went back to the drawing board and launched again, and then again. And finally on the 3rd time, it started to actually work.
Yeah, you can never launch too many times. I think that's the lesson here.
You can never launch too many times.
All right, so they've got a couple of questions about you're super well connected. It seems like every friend of yours has basically built $1 billion company. But how does someone who doesn't have that network grow their network so that they can reach the people that they want to reach? Or is that not important at all?
Well, I think the important thing is when I started off in Silicon Valley, I didn't have any friends with billion-dollar companies. I didn't even have any friends with $100 million companies.
Do you have any friends?
I didn't even have that many friends, to be honest. But for me, it was about building connections with people who were my cohort, who were my peers. And those people eventually became successful over time because they stuck with it. And as I became successful, other people became successful as well. And if you look at any other industry, whether it's finance or Hollywood, entertainment, etc., oftentimes when you see people who are like all connected and they became successful, it's like, well, they became friends when they weren't successful. You know, like Kesha and Katy Perry are friends, right? Like, I think. They started when they were like,
that's news to me.
When they started when they were, before they were successful, you know, and that's how it always is. So like the key is, I think, to build a cohort of people that you can be really honest with, vulnerable with, and become friends with early on, and then you become successful together, and then eventually, you know, you have you're friends with a bunch of billionaires.
Yeah, you pull everyone up the ladder.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it's good. It's what does Drake say? It's like, it's great to make it, but it's even better when your friends make it with you, or something like that.
Probably in fewer words.
It's something like that, yeah.
Drake, if you're watching, let us know what the lyric was. Okay, so there's also a question here on, you have always started your own startups, but if you were going back to going into your like early 20s, would you rather work at a startup or start your own, and why or why not?
I think it depends on who you are, right? So what worked for me was not necessarily what will work for you. For me, I always started my own startups because I had a lot of ego around, I want to be the man and I want to start my own company, and I was interested in doing whatever thing was interesting to me, right? Not necessarily joining someone else's thing. I think there's a huge amount to learn from joining someone else's thing. Joining a startup, though, is high risk because most people who start startups are terrible managers. And so, you know, in those very early days of the start, you're going to join a team with no management experience. Career development is going to be non-existent. And basically, you're riding on the idea that you're going to just get thrown in the deep end. This thing's going to be a rocket ship, and you're going to learn a lot yourself. And so, I mean, for a lot of people, that's a good move. But it can be hard.
Okay, now we have a bunch of rapid fire, more fun type questions.
Rapid fire questions.
Yes, you gotta go quick.
Blah, blah, blah.
Okay, what is your favorite TV show?
Favorite TV show is The Shield with Michael Chiklis. It's amazing cop drama that came out in 2001. It's an incredible show, maybe 2002. Incredible show. It's my favorite show.
What is your favorite movie?
Favorite movie is Heat by Michael Mann. Incredible movie. Robert De Niro, Al Pacino. Yeah, that's a good one.
What is your guilty pleasure?
Guilty pleasure is eating donuts, obviously. Donuts, cakes, cookies, all sorts of, basically carbs. Carbs are the guilty pleasure.
Sweet tooth.
I don't know if it's so much sweet. It's more like I think bread type of thing, you know, like the bread, like bread and cream flavors more than sugar itself.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, I feel like everyone can relate.
Yeah.
I don't know if you actually have an answer to this, but is New Haven pizza as good as everyone says?
Is New Haven pizza as good as everyone says? I think, yes, New Haven pizza is good. It's excellent. Would
you recommend one?
I like the Pizza at Bar, and there's a place, I think it was called Modern Pizza.
If you could eat a dish for the rest of your life, what would it be?
One dish, the rest of my life, probably bolognese.
Oh, it's not your chili verde?
I also make a very good chili verde, which I think is great. You can't eat chili verde every day, right? But bolognese I could eat every day. We're talking about the rest of my life, right? So. Yeah.
That's true. That's true. What is the most extravagant meal you've ever had?
Oh, that's a good question. The most extravagant meal I've ever had. I've been fortunate. I've been very blessed to eat a very large number of nice meals. Some of the ones that stand out, there's a restaurant called Benu that's 3 Michelin stars in San Francisco. I think that was an excellent meal. When we first closed our Series A for Justin TV, we went to dining room at the Ritz in San Francisco, which is now gone. But that was like the first fine dining experience we ever had, which was great. I guess those are some of the ones I can remember. I went to French Laundry. Gavin Newsom wasn't there, but I had a good time anyways.
All good recommendations.
Yeah.
I've never been to them. Would you ever go to space, like Jeff Bezos and Richard Branson?
I'd be in space in a second. The second I can go to space, I want to be the 1,000th person in space. Because I think that by that time they'll have de-risked it. I don't want to be like this third person in space. I mean, they've already had 3 people go to space, right? Like, how many astronauts have there been? I want to be like the 10,000th person in space. And I also want to go when there's something to do, like they put an amusement park on the moon or something. Like, you don't want to go when it's just like, okay, you go up into space, now it's time to go home, whoop-de-doo. Like, that's a little bit lame. Plus, it's gonna, like right now, it's like $20 million to send someone to space or something. I think it's 60. Well, it depends on which space experience you want, but like there's one that's heavily been marketed to me that's like $60 million, and it's like, I don't want to pay $60 million to go to space.
You've gotten asked to go to space?
Well, they're trying to sell it to me.
Wow.
It's $60 million. Like, there's no, like, I can't afford that, bro. I mean, we're gonna need to get a lot more views on this YouTube before I can spend $60 million to go to space. So like this video, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on video notifications to help me get to space.
Would you rather go to the moon or go to Mars?
I'd much rather go to the moon. I think Mars, it's going to be hard to get back. Like, and also Mars, like what's there going to be on Mars that there's not on the moon?
Red sand.
Gravity.
What are 3 of your favorite books that you recommend?
I know there's gravity on the moon for the record. The gravity on Mars is just like slightly, it's higher. 3 book recommendations. 1, The Untethered Soul. It's a great book by Michael Singer. Kind of introduces Eastern concept, religion, Eastern spiritual concepts to the West. That's 1. Number 2, Awareness by Anthony DeMello. Once again, like a great spiritual book. And then number 3 is Shogun by James Clavell. It's an adventure book, historical fiction about this sailor, based on a true story actually, about a British sailor that gets shipwrecked in Japan, in feudal Japan in 1600, and becomes kind of this center point of political intrigue. It's a really amazing book, probably it's a book that really transports you there, and so recommend it. It's my favorite work of fiction.
Where you learn your storytelling skills from?
I don't know.
They're all natural.
No, they're not natural. They're not natural. My storytelling skills come from practice. Practice. If you want to be good at something, you got to put in your 10,000 hours. And as an entrepreneur, I put in 10,000 hours in telling stories. You're telling, when someone's joining your company, you're saying, here's the story of how it's going to help you in your career and be something really big. When you're selling investors, that's a story like how this is going to change the world and produce a really valuable business. Storytelling is a critical part of being an entrepreneur. I put in my 10,000 hours.
Who do you look up to?
Who do I look up to? Depends on what category, but as an entrepreneur, really look up to Elon Musk. He really tackles the hardest problems that humanity faces and really makes progress against them.
And creates sick flamethrowers.
Yeah, don't really look up to I think his work-life balance is whack though, and it's, he's really sacrificing himself to like make this happen, so.
People always want to know about like how you get the word out about their product. So someone asks, how do you get articles in those big publications? How do you get into TechCrunch? Or does it really not matter?
How do you get into TechCrunch? Here's the secret to get into TechCrunch. No, getting into TechCrunch is like not important, okay? Like what's important is building a product that's actually good and figuring out a scalable channel to get customers. My co-founder Emmett has a great post about the different methods of growth in a startup. He says there's only 5 growth strategies that exist, and your product probably only fits 1. Press isn't a growth strategy, and neither is word of mouth. The 5 growth strategies are high-touch sales, paid advertising, intrinsic virality, intrinsic influencer incentives like Twitch, and platform hacks. Spending time focused on press, I would spend time focusing on which of these growth strategies actually will work for your product and how do you implement and test one of them.
Cool. All right, so now we're gonna move on to, a lot of people are really curious about like what your life is like, kind of how you stay productive. So first question, when do you wake up? When do you go to bed? And if you have a productive day, do you have any routines that you try to keep to?
Yeah, so my day and night, sleep in and wake up has gotten all jammed up since I've become a dad, but in general, I go to sleep around midnight, probably wake up around 7:30, 7 or 7:30. And then my productive routine, if I get to make sure if I do it in the morning, which now is not 100% of the time, is get up, make myself decaf coffee, do my gratitude journal, meditate, and do some form of exercise, which is often like exercise bike, or kettlebell swings or something. If I do those things in the morning, then I feel good. If I don't do those things in the morning, things are still good. I'll try to get them in. I fit them in through the rest of the day, but that's the routine for success for me.
And also carrying your kid around.
Carrying my kid around, yeah.
Works out the arms.
Yeah, exactly. You gotta get those, it's all biceps. It's like mom bicep, I think.
What is your definition of hard work?
What's my definition of hard work? Hard work is when you are putting your best effort into something. For me, working hard hasn't been hard because I've always worked on things that I really am excited about. So it doesn't feel like work. Like if I take calls on the weekend or I'm staying up late programming, it doesn't feel like work because it's doing stuff that I'm like very curious about. Because I've always tried to work on things where I have a lot of curiosity. So I think hard work is putting in your best effort and doing whatever it takes to make that project successful. If you're not willing to work hard on something, then I would question whether you should be working on it at all.
That's kind of how I feel about working on your channel. I do this as a side project actually, instead of my full-time job in product.
Right.
But I have a lot of
Jen has a full-time job as a product manager and just does this for funsies.
But it's great. I feel like I just like it organically. So sounds like everyone should try to pursue things that they like and find joy in. Next set is all about life advice. So we all know that everyone kind of views you not only as their favorite founder's favorite founder, but this sage with the long hair, good hair.
You can tell I'm a guru because of my hair.
Like there will be rapid fire about what your favorite conditioner is later on. But right now, people want to know, what was your lowest low and your highest high, and do they have anything in common?
Okay, lowest low. Well, there are a lot of lows, actually. There are lots and lots of lows. One recent low is laying off my team at Atrium, which we shut the company down. I really love that team, so it was very disappointing to do that. Highest high, there were some moments, obviously selling Twitch, which were pretty incredible. Seeing a Brinks truck back up to the Bank of America and just deposit all this cash in my Bank of America app. That was like an amazing moment for a second. But I think what's more interesting is that the lows and highs actually don't make that much of a difference. Like there are moments, they're like watershed moments, but for the most part, it's like I'm living my life every day. So it's more about what's the baseline. Whatever high or low you experience, you're going to recover you're going to just go back to normal from that, right? And so for me, it's much more interesting. Instead of saying, I used to chase like, okay, what's the next high? What's the next high? But instead now I'm more like, okay, how do I increase my daily baseline 1% or 2% or 5%, because that's kind of the average of how I feel most of the time.
Yeah, like your balance kind of gradually
increases. That's kind of like the best thing you can do for yourself, rather than saying, oh, how do I get another like $1 billion exit high, which is only going to last one day, maybe a week.
Maybe a nice vacation. 2 weeks. All right. What is a bad habit that you have besides eating a lot of donuts and drinking boba? Then what are you trying to do to overcome it?
I think diet is the best. Is the habit that I'm trying to work on the most. People think I'm like awesome at habit creation, but diet for me is the one I've struggled with, because I know when I eat a low carb diet that I feel better every day, but I'm not able to always stick with it. So it's kind of off and on. I swing back between low carb and not, or keto and not, and that's the one thing I'm trying to stick with more.
Gotcha. So someone who's a fan of The Quest also heard your interview with Emmett, and both of you mentioned that a big part of your success was like saying yes to new opportunities, to new experiences, like always trying something new. But do you ever find that leads to taking on too much? Like you end up overcommitting, and then how do you deal with that if you end up doing it that way?
Yeah, so I love saying yes to things. Saying yes to new things has led me to like amazing, incredible experiences. Like, for example, starting this YouTube channel, where I was initially very skeptical, and then Jen kind of convinced me, and now I really enjoy it. But yeah, oftentimes that can lead you to take on too much, and you can get tired and exhausted. For me, I have a pretty high threshold for doing like lots of different things and context switching. There's a couple tips. Like one is I try not to be the directly responsible individual for things now. So it's kind of like I set them up with partners where they can do a lot of the management lifting.
Justin's a great delegator.
She's even seen that during the course of our relationship. And then the second thing is, when something doesn't feel right anymore, then just being honest with yourself and saying like, oh, like I'm no longer that excited about this project or working on this. For me, I've designed my life around specific types of jobs where, there's always new stuff coming up, and like the things you have to do for like the earlier stuff is maybe limited, right? As an investor, you're kind of chasing the next deal and the next deal, and so it exposes me to like a lot of new things without having to, once you invest, you help the founder, but you also, they're kind of responsible, and then you're moving on to the next deal.
So I think something that a lot of people are always curious about is kind of like, you always talk about how you and Emmett are kind of like these self-made people. So people always wonder, do you feel like you needed your higher education to be successful? Because you obviously went to Yale, but how much did that actually play into your success?
We started the company while we were at Yale, so that was, I would say in a way that's like very important, right? It was like a fertile ground for us to ideate, company ideas and start a company. I don't know that they directly gave I learned anything directly there that was important, but I do think it was a great place with a lot of smart people to learn. And so, if I was to do it all over again, I wouldn't trade it. I wouldn't change anything. I would definitely go back to Yale. It's all about the people and the connections. And like my co-founders came from Yale, right? If you're able to go to a great institution, like a Yale or Harvard or maybe business school, like Harvard Business School or something like that, I would definitely go for sure.
So a lot of people look at and have seen that story about your Bank of America account. So someone asked, what is your best advice to a young person who wants to be wealthy?
Oh, what's my advice to a young person who wants to be wealthy? Well, in order to make wealth, you have to figure out how to get leverage to make real wealth. And leverage, it means you have something that's working for you that's not yourself, right? So that could be organizational leverage, like you have a company or a product or an investment. But a lot of people end up starting businesses that are like services companies, or they're selling their time, and that doesn't scale. So I would think about, how do I get leverage? Now, that can be many different ways. My general advice is that you pursue something that you're passionate about, like where you have that intrinsic motivator, because then it won't feel like work. You're gonna be able to stick with it for much, much longer. So those are my 2 tips. Figure out what's something that you can work on that's intrinsically motivating to you, and then figure out how to get leverage.
Yeah, gotta work smarter.
Yeah, work smarter.
You have to pour your time into something that is inefficient. Okay, and then last question, the most important question of all that everyone is wondering. What is your hair care routine?
Oh yeah, so I use this shampoo that's like a anti-hair thinning shampoo, which has like DHT blockers in it, called Pure Door, something like that. Pure Door. Anyway, so it's like a, because I'm thinning right here, so I'm like trying to desperately claw that back. It's not working so good. And then I use Function of Beauty conditioner, which is a YC company. They do like custom, this is like an ad for them. They don't sponsor me, they should. But it's a Function of Beauty is a hair care that's like custom, they'll make you your own formula based on like your hair goals. So I use their conditioner, and
hashtag hair goals.
Hashtag hair goals. Everybody has them.
All right, that's it. First ever Q&A on the channel.
Yeah, some people's hair goal is like to have hair. Luckily I have it. My goal is to keep it. All right, that's it. That was the Q&A video. If you liked the Q&A, you know what to do. Like and subscribe to the channel. If you didn't like the Q&A, you get what you paid for. All right, we'll see you guys next time.
Bye.